my fellow Americans. It's finally almost time. Election day on November 6th is coming up. Currently, it is 12:02 a.m. on Sunday morning. I'm doing this pretty late, but I want to get it done. I want to get it out. And we only have 9 days now. 9 days until Election Day. So remember, no matter what state you're in, make sure you go out and vote. Even if you don't have a Senate race up this year or a governor's race, I'm sure there's many different House races and local stuff to go vote for. So I highly recommend you go do that. It's a lot of fun. If you're interested in politics and stuff like that, this is a very exciting time of year for many people who are interested in polling and elections and stuff like that. Alright, now with that being said, let's get on to today's election prediction. So this is, I believe, my 4th election prediction video. I want to try to get one more out before the election, and I am working on trying to get a mock election night out as well. I'm going to be trying to work hard on that this week. Also, excuse me, I do have like a little bit of a cold. So, if you hear sniffling in the background, sorry, that's what that is. So, the Senate map, I'm going to try to go into more depth this one and break it down to region. So, I'll start off in the east and work my way west as I usually do. And then I'll go down to toss-up states and talk about those more in depth as well. So, all of New England, we pretty much know is going to go Democrat. Maine, Angus King. Vermont, Bernie Sanders. Massachusetts, Elizabeth Warren. Rhode Island, Sheldon Whitehouse. And Connecticut, Chris Murphy. That's like a given. We all know New England's going to go blue. If New England's going red, then it's a way, way worse night for Democrats than we think. New York, Kirsten Gillibrand, she's definitely going to win. She's one of the top contenders for 2020. I mean, it seems like every single Democratic senator is, but she's definitely probably one of the top 10 to top 15 candidates for 2020. Pennsylvania and New Jersey, I'm going to come back to. The state of Maryland with Ben Cardin, that's safe Democrat. And the state of Delaware with Tom Carper, that is also safe Democrat. And now down to Virginia. I talked about it a little bit last time around, how I said polling Virginia is always off, where the losing candidate always makes a last-minute surge on Election Day, but still narrowly loses. And if that's the case or not, I don't know. Doesn't really matter. Tim Kaine, if Hillary Clinton lost the presidential election, but Tim Kaine and her still won Virginia, I mean, that sets it all right there. Tim Kaine's going to win Virginia. I think it's going to be more than 10 to 15%. And now we go. Actually, no, I'm going to cover the Rust Belt as part of the toss-up part of it. But I will call the Minnesota Senate race between Amy Klobuchar, not the special race, just the regular one, Amy Klobuchar. She will win that. That is a safe Democratic state. The state of Hawaii with Mazie Hirono, that's safe Democrat. Martin Heinrich in New Mexico, that is safe Democrat only because Gary Johnson is running and will take a big percentage of that Republican vote away. In California, we know it's a safe Democratic state because of 2 Democrats running, Dianne Feinstein and Kevin De Leon. Polls have shown Feinstein up by anywhere from 10 to 20 points, so she's probably going to hold on there. And in Washington, Maria Cantwell is going to win and hold on to her Senate race. So we know there's going to be at least 37 safe Democratic states going in to the next election cycle. So now, I'll do the safe Republican states first, then I'll get back to the different regions. So in Utah, Mitt Romney, he's going to win. Wyoming, John Barrasso, he's going to win. Nebraska, Deb Fischer, she's going to win. And I do think both races in Missouri between Roger Wicker and Cindy Hyde-Smith are both safe GOP. So that's 47 Republicans, 37 Democrats. Oh, and if I forgot to mention, I'm using 270 to win. It's a website where you can make your own custom Senate maps and how you think it will go. And if you're watching this video, you've seen other videos doing the exact same thing, so you can try it out yourself. It's actually pretty fun. Alright, so now to the Rust Belt. The Rust Belt is what gave President Trump his victory 2 years ago. And this election, it's almost definitely going back blue. For instance, I think Minnesota special, Wisconsin, Michigan, Pennsylvania, and Ohio. All those, I think, are either borderline likely or safe for this. The only one I'm going to come back to, actually, is the state of Michigan. Because the state of Michigan, I'm putting in the likely Democratic column. And, sorry. The reasoning for me putting Michigan in the likely column is because there's been some polls where it shows Debbie Stabenow up 50%, but it's 52 to 46. So while it is closer now than it was before, it also shows that she has more than 50%, which means she just has to hold on to her own votes, and then she pretty much wins. Wisconsin I'll make a likely Democrat as well. Same situation where it has gotten closer, but Tammy Baldwin's over 50%, so she just has to hold her own margin. But Ohio and Pennsylvania, I don't really see a path for either Republican candidates to be their Democratic challengers. Ohio, maybe early on, there's a chance, but when Josh Mandel dropped out, I mean, Jim Renossi just never kind of catched fire the same way Josh Mandel did. And in Pennsylvania, Bob Casey has enough popularity to beat Lou Barletta, and I just don't think it's going to really change, especially with only 9 days left. Now, the state of New Jersey, I'm going to call the state of New Jersey in the lean Democratic column. Now, this is hit Delaware by mistake. Sorry. This is so unprofessional. So the state of New Jersey is a lean Democratic state. And the reason for that is Bob Menendez is very unpopular. He's caught up in that corruption scandal, which he was said to be proven innocent, but that's still lingering in the back of voters' minds. So that is a lean Democratic state. And Bob Eugen is within striking distance of possibly winning on Election Day. That's why it's only a lean Democrat, not a likely Democrat. So that's still a possibility. Before I head back out west, West Virginia, I'm going to say now, I think is a likely Democratic state. After voting yes on Kavanaugh, I think that pretty much gave Joe Manchin the win. And I think President Trump said a few weeks ago he was going to go back to West Virginia. Then after the Kavanaugh vote and Manchin voted yes, he hasn't really discussed plans of doing that. And I think Trump knows that West Virginia is probably going to go to Joe Manchin. So now we're going to look and say, what are the likely states for the GOP? And the likely states, I know for a fact, North Dakota is one of them. North Dakota is one because polls have consistently showed Kevin Cramer up double digits over Heidi Heitkamp. Their Democrats are now taking money out of North Dakota and putting it into other places like New Jersey or Michigan where they could possibly fear loss. And North Dakota is pretty much gone for the Democrats now. I mean, unless the Democrats win the Senate and get like 54-46 or some margin like that, North Dakota is probably not going to flip. And the state of Tennessee, I will also put in the likely Republican column. I just think Phil Bredesen was leading very, very early on, but I don't think it's going to be much of a factor now. I think Marsha Blackburn's got the race. Tennessee kind of starts off close in almost every single election, then really becomes a big Republican blowout, and I think it's going to be the same thing for this scenario. So now we'll go to the lean Democratic states. And, well, I already talked about New Jersey, but I think Montana's still in that lean Democratic column. Matt Rosendale was not really, in all due respect to him, was not really the strongest candidate to run to try to beat Jon Tester. And to be quite honest, I don't know who the strongest candidate to run against Jon Tester would be, which kind of says it all right there, because Montana is a very Republican state at presidential levels, but state level, they're kind of more center-left or more of a moderate Democrat, and I think Jon Tester appeals to that well. It could be close, within 5% or 6%, but I still think Jon Tester will hold on there. So I believe that's all the lean Democratic states. Lean Republican states, just one, and that is the state of Texas, with Ted Cruz, Beto O'Rourke. Ted Cruz has reached that point now where he is above the 50% mark. So it could be within 5 to 6 points, but if he's above 50, that's all that matters. Any win in politics is a win. It's winner take all. Doesn't matter if it's by 1%, 0.1%, or if it's even by 10%. It doesn't matter. A win's a win. And I think Ted Cruz will win. So with 50 Republican Senate seats, the Republicans will keep their majority in the Senate. But I'm not stopping there. I don't think the Republicans are just going to get to 50. I think they're going to build on their majority. So where's the start? Well, they already got a pickup in North Dakota. And currently the Democrats have no pickups. So we're going to go out west first. Out west, we have Nevada and Arizona. Nevada, especially, Dean Heller started off as the most vulnerable Republican and, to be quite honest, the most vulnerable senator. even more vulnerable than Heidi Heitkamp or Claire McCaskill or any of these Democrats in Trump states. Because Dean Heller was a unliked Republican in a state Hillary Clinton won. That's a swing state that's trending blue due to the Hispanic vote and the other minority vote. Dean Heller, based off trends, should not win this race. However, polls in the past few weeks have shown he will win this race. I'm putting it in the tilt column, which to me means it could be anywhere from 1% to 4% or less. So it will still be close, but the fact that Dean Heller may actually pull this off in what is supposed to be a Democratic wave year just shows that maybe in the House it's going to be a Democratic wave year, but the Senate is totally something different. Arizona might be the closest or second closest race of them all. Arizona started off with Kirsten Sinema beating every single Republican while the primaries are still going on. Then after the primaries, she still led for a long time. Martha McSally then took the lead for like a week or two, and then Kirsten Sinema took the lead back, and now it's kind of like it's getting a lot closer, and we don't know what's going to happen. For the simple fact that I think Martha McSally has rebound, plus it's Arizona, and it is trending blue, and the Hispanic vote is changing. But I think Arizona in 2018 is kind of like Wisconsin or Michigan in 2016. Could it vote blue? Yes. But have we seen it do it yet? No. And I say Arizona will stay red until it does. So it's kind of, Arizona is a state that I'm putting in the Republican column as kind of a prove me wrong state. Kind of after the election, I'll see if I'm wrong and I'll take ownership for it and say I was wrong. Arizona should have voted blue. I should have saw it. So I'm kind of anticipating to see what Arizona will do. I think it stays red, but we'll find out after Election Day. So now out to the east, we have, actually I'm going to go back to Missouri last because Missouri is the one I kind of want to talk about the most. Indiana and Florida. A few weeks ago, these were the two that I was really not sure about. And it's still kind of similar. But Indiana, I looked at some polls from Indiana, and things have shown that Joe Donnelly has been leading for a very, very long time. Mike Braun, the two most recent polls, show him up. The Republican insider polls, which makes them a little untrustworthy. And I think this all depends on how well the Libertarian candidate does. Most recent poll in Indiana, that is the Democrat winning. It has Joe Donnelly at 41, Mike Braun at 40, and the Libertarian candidate around 7 or 8. And it adds up to 93% of the vote, and there's 7% left undecided. And in the state of Indiana, which is a Republican state, Mike Pence is from there. President Trump won there by a big margin. I do think those undecided voters ultimately do go to Mike Braun because Joe Donnelly won in 2012, and Obama won Indiana in 2008. So Indiana can go blue, but generally in midterms, voter turnout is down. Now this could change it, but if it doesn't, I expect Indiana to go in the tilt GOP column. Now down to Florida. Florida has changed a lot just in the past few weeks. If you asked me 2 weeks ago who I thought would win, I would say Rick Scott from anywhere from a 1 to 5% margin. And if you asked me about the governor's race, I would say, all right, you know what? I think Rick Scott is probably doing a good job. I'd say Ron DeSantis would probably win because that's how good Rick Scott's doing. And now there's several polls out showing the exact opposite, with Bill Nelson leading in the Senate race and Andrew Gillum leading in the governor's race. Florida has kind of flip-flopped. It went from the both GOP candidates winning to now the Democrat candidates winning. And the main question is, A, what happened? And B, will this actually happen on Election Day? And to be quite honest, Florida's kind of like Arizona. I don't know. And it's kind of a prove me wrong. I don't know about Florida that much. I still think that some of these polls that show Bill Nelson ahead, for instance, the most recent poll, Ray Gravis, I believe, was 49 to 45, Bill Nelson. And there's not really a prominent third or fourth party candidate in that race. So for there to be that many undecided votes going into Election Day this close. I just find it very hard to believe. So I think that the St. Pete polls that show like 48-49 in favor of Rick Scott, or 49-48 or 47-46 in favor of Andrew Gillum over Ron DeSantis, I think that's more accurate because they also polled close to 2,000 people. And generally when you poll more people in polls, they tend to be more reliable and more trustworthy. So for that basis alone, I'm going to put Florida still in the tilt Republican column. I'm making kind of a bold statement there because I know literally every other prediction for Senate races by other channels and such of saying Florida's either tilt or lean Dem. And I'm putting Florida in the tilt R because while there is some polls out showing Bill Nelson's ahead, the ones that show him ahead also show Rick Scott getting like 44-45%. I still think it's too late in the game to be that many undecideds. And these polls that show him up only have like 600 people. And a lot of them are just done online or just landlines and such. And it's hard to tell which are reliable or not. And they could be push polls. We don't know. But I believe President Trump is doing a rally in Florida, I believe on Tuesday, coming up either Tuesday or Wednesday. And I think this will probably help booster some last-minute Republican votes for Rick Scott and Ron DeSantis. So I do think Rick Scott will win the Florida Senate race. The governor race, I have no idea. That one, honestly, I have no idea in Florida. But what a shock. Florida is a close race again. Who would have guessed it? It's not like this happens like literally every other year, like every 2 years. Anyway, Florida's being like really difficult to tell. So, normal election. In the state of Missouri. I left Missouri for last because Missouri's been my favorite race to watch. Ever since the beginning, my initial favorite race was Ohio, but then Josh Mandel dropped down and got like really one-sided. Missouri's always been my favorite, since then, because Missouri has always been close. Missouri has always seemed to be within the margin of error of every single poll, and Josh Hawley and Claire McCaskill have been battling left and right at every single step of the way. And this campaign has not been without its ups and downs. And just for the record, I do not live in Missouri. Like, nowhere even near Missouri. So, if you're thinking it's because I'm from there, no, I'm not. I'm not from Missouri. But the reason I like this race so much is because Missouri very well, on election day, if I'm totally wrong, Missouri could determine who holds the Senate. And considering a lot of these polls that have been shown in Missouri, like 46-46 or 47-47, where it's very close, not many undecideds, and they're all within the margin of error and or tied, Missouri's been very, very interesting to tell. And I did my Senate prediction video back from Missouri probably a few weeks ago now. And actually, maybe a few months now. And it's changed a little bit. I think the Libertarian and the Green Party candidate is going to get a bigger percentage of the vote than we thought. So I think whichever candidate wins is going to be by a plurality, not a majority. But that being said, I still think Missouri is going to go to Josh Hawley because at this stage of the game, even if they're insider polls or not, every single poll, bipartisan or not poll, has shown Josh Hawley ahead by at least 1%. And again, a win is a win. It's hard to tell when it's likely going to be a plurality vote and not a majority. But again, winner take all. And Missouri is different from, say, Louisiana, where they'll do a jungle primary if no candidate gets 50%. In Missouri, like many other states, it's winner take all. So I do think Josh Hawley will narrowly edge this one out, probably within 2 or 3%. Claire McCaskill served in Congress for a long time, but the simple fact is she was in a Republican state in a Democratic wave year for the House, but most likely a Republican wave, or Republican tsunami is a new term I'm hearing, a Republican tsunami year for the Senate, just due to how President Trump did in 2016. And I've heard this a lot, that Josh Hawley wasn't really the most popular candidate, or that Claire McCaskill got really lucky. And not really, because Josh Hawley doesn't really have any big scandals to his name. I mean, he is the state's attorney general, which literally opens the door for many big scandals. But I think those kind of got subsided, and based up till now, he's managed to avoid any major scandal, really. And yeah, there was the whole governor situation like 6 months ago, but the voters in Missouri seem to forget about that. And besides, Kavanaugh and the caravan and everything like that is just really forgotten about it. So Missouri I put in the tilt Republican column. So I do think the Republicans are going to get 55 Republican senators to 45 Democratic senators. A very bold stance in the Senate for the midterms. Many people are afraid to say that if the Republicans hold the Senate, they won't get more than 51. Or they may even end up holding it with 50 and lose, say, like Arizona or something. I think they're actually going to end up gaining seats because I just think the data and the recent events such as Kavanaugh, the caravan, and everything's just on their side. And I think since President Trump's going out and campaigning, unlike Obama in 2014, who the Democrats didn't want, many Republicans want President Trump to campaign for them, and he is the best campaigner the Republicans have. So I think he's definitely going to be a big deciding factor. It may not work in some places like West Virginia or probably won't work in Montana, but in places like in Missouri, Indiana, and Florida, and yes, even in Texas, Nevada, and Arizona, I do think it'll be a big factor. So I'm pretty sure that President Trump's rallies and stuff will definitely help out. So that has been my up-to-date Senate prediction, and we have just 9 days left, so Election Day is coming up. If you can still do early voting if you want, do that. If not, on Election Day, make sure you get out and vote. The future of the Senate's at stake, the future of the House, which party holds the governorship in your state. Get out and vote. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.